So liberals and socialists claim that they want to save children. And one way that they've tried to do that in Boulder recently is by passing a tax on drinks with added sugar, as if something like orange juice, which has the same amount of sugar, isn't just as harmful. But let's leave that aside. They want to save children from the bad judgment of their parents by making it more expensive for their parents to exercise what they consider bad judgment, which will cause them not to exercise it as often, which they think will benefit the children. But in another case where they've tried to save the world, they have actually created policies that kill children. And I think we need to make sure to hold their feet to the fire about that. So what am I talking about? Corporate average fuel economy standards, CAFE standards, were put in place in the 70s and have been made more strict and more strict over the years, including by Republicans, because Republicans are cowed, understandably so, by the fact that the media and the public only sees one part of the equation. Everyone sees the part that the liberals and the socialists want, which is we want to burn less fuel, we want to create less carbon, and unfortunately, if you look at the facts, they haven't actually succeeded in doing that. So the CAFE standards don't actually do what they were supposed to do. They don't reduce consumption, they don't reduce our carbon footprint. Just look around and listen to the media and you'll know our carbon footprint is huge and has to be reduced, or the world is going to burn up. Okay? So, these standards, but everybody still believes in the theory, I guess, of how wonderful it would be if we could reduce consumption and reduce our carbon footprint by making the car companies sell cars that have better fuel economy. But how do they do that? Well, they make smaller, lighter cars with smaller engines that burn less fuel. Okay? What is the effect on people of the fact that, well, first of all, the corporations have to create more fuel-efficient cars, and they have to make sure that they sell them. So their price structures have to be changed also to make sure that people who might otherwise choose a larger vehicle would choose a smaller one instead. And what is the trade-off that no one wants to talk about? The trade-off is that a smaller and lighter vehicle, just look at a smart car and tell me what you think of it. A smart car is a death trap, because if you're in an accident with any other vehicle other than a motorcycle, you will be crushed in a small tin can and you will most likely die. And that illustrates the statistical reality that whenever you reduce, and this has been reported by the USA Today, other news organizations, and by government agencies, so everybody knows it's true, if you reduce the weight of a car, then you are more likely to die in a collision involving that car. So, over the decades, hundreds of thousands of people have died who would not have died if these standards were not in place. And many of those people were children. That was not their intent. And I'm not going to go the route that most of the Democrats would if the shoe was on the other foot and say that they wanted to kill children, but their policies have killed children, and if they stay in place, they will kill more children. And so they need to be held accountable for the fact that their policies kill children. They need to make the argument that the deaths of those children are worthwhile in the big picture for the trade-off of whatever benefit they can argue we've gotten from the standards. But since we haven't reduced consumption and we haven't reduced creation of carbon dioxide, and why haven't we? Because When the car has more fuel economy, it costs less to drive it, and so you can drive it more miles for the same dollars, and you end up basically just changing your behavior to match the reality, which is what free markets do. And what socialism does is it promises a result and puts in an effort to create that result, and then creates different ones that actually cause harm and disruption. So Democrat policies like the CAFE standards kill children, and if we were serious about rolling back regulations, we would probably say it's time to roll that back. It's time to let people know that these policies kill children, and make sure that everyone who decides whether or not they support the policy factors that into their calculus, because the cost of CAFE standards is dead children.